Welcome to Between Three Witches, where we talk about witchcraft in plain sight, everyday magic lived honestly, and it's hosted by three witches. Me, Gail the Witch Next Door.
Me, Vicky the Wheelie Green Witch.
And me, Anon, the Anonymous Witch.
We all walk different paths with different levels of experience, but we share a deep respect for the craft as it is actually practiced, and not the dramatised version that people expect. So today we are joined by someone very special as our first ever Witchcraft 101 guest for Witchcraft Mentor. She is a beloved voice in the witchcraft community and a guide for those seeking connection, empowerment through everyday magic. Through her books, workshops and online presence, she encourages people to explore their craft with confidence and curiosity. Her passion for helping others through their own spiritual path makes her truly special. She is the author of multiple books, including Wicca, Charms, Potions and Lore, and her latest book, Witchatorium, which breaks down the language of witchcraft in a way that actually makes sense, whether you're just starting out or deep in your practice. Great to welcome you to the podcast, Nixie Vale.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so excited you're here. How have you been anyway? How has things been lately? And obviously you've been writing a book, so that's pretty stressful.
Yes. I've actually got two sort of in the pipeline and planning stages as well. So
wow.
Yay. Wow. But it's kind of like the same things, different days. Obviously, I'm disabled and I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user. So while I can walk around inside, I don't when I'm outside. So a lot of my practice and a lot of my life kind of is centered around being disabled and learning how to do the things I used to do while conserving and protecting the energy that I have. And it's not always very much. I try to do, all the things, Sabbats, Esbats, and it's like I've learned to do things when I'm well enough and have the mental, physical, emotional, and all that stability around me, rather than rushing off and doing something and having to take a week to recover.
But that's a really important message. I'm sure Vicky has spoken about this before as well.
Massively.
About your disability and how you blend it into your magic, and understanding what our body needs and how we feel is like a critical part of that, isn't it?
And Vicky's probably the same, that to begin with, there was a level of guilt to not being able to practice the way I used to, not being able to have my altars set up, or because I used to have 5 or 6. But now it's like I can't energetically keep those spaces open. So I have one that looks like a bomb has exploded on it. There was that level of guilt and almost shame that I put on myself about not being able to do the things I used to do. It's like I used to be able to do all of this stuff. Why can't I do it? And then it's like, well, your body's betraying you.
As a human, we tend to put so much pressure on ourselves for the way things used to be. And I've had some one-to-ones this week with my clients, and it's like, well, I used to do this, or I used to be, but we can never revert back to the way we were. Those lessons have been learned for a reason, disability, change of circumstance. But it is about understanding how we move into whatever the current moment is and accepting that. But you're right, guilt is a real thing. I can't even imagine how frustrating it is, let alone guilty it is, to be able to have done the things and not be able to then do the things.
You have to learn to pace. Pacing feels like it doesn't get anything done. You want to do 100 more things than you actually can do. You have all of these ideas and all of a sudden your body betrays you and you can't move for the day, which is fantastic. And then you have to try and make everything accessible. I'm lucky now because I actually live in an accessible house, and we've made the garden accessible for me. When I say we, that's the royal we. The husband built it accessible for me. So that I could continue with my practice. But you do feel a lot of guilt, yeah.
And it's also something I think that a lot of new mothers feel when they can't practice how they want to because they're too exhausting from feeding babies or school runs. And it's overwhelming.
So when I'm running and I see somebody and I wave, and that's probably the worst example to say to 2 wheelchair users, so sorry about that. But fuck's sake, I'll cut that out. Or when you're on a bike, all right, when I'm in my T5 van and I see another T5, we wave. But do you give a nod to, if you've seen another wheelchair user, would you go, oh yeah? Is it like,
Yeah.
and Raw go, all right.
And we also check out each other's wheelchairs to see who's got the nicer one,
Yes.
if we want
Yes,
it.
we
That's a
do.
thing. It's a thing.
And I'm in a sort of a power chair.
Ooh.
So I've had people like, ooh, that's quite fancy. Because usually I'll say, because people stare at me, and I'm used to that. And it's like, okay, is it the chair or the hair that you notice first? Because I have green and pink hair
I love your
at the
hair. I
moment.
love it.
Thank you. And it's like, so, okay, so what did you see first, the chair or the hair? And it's usually a mixture of both. But I had a lady at the vet in October, and she was like, where did you get your chair from? I'm like, here. So I gave her the address to the shop that I got it through, and she was like, this would make my life so much easier. And I live in rural England, in this one of the really small towns. It is not built
Yep.
for accessibility. I mean, there are some places the doors are physically not wide enough for me to go inside because they're listed buildings. Some of these buildings have been here since the 1100s. So it's like you can't really. So there is quite a bit of the town that I can't get into anymore. But there are people who are amazing with it as well. This old gentleman we got on the bus one day, he had one of these like collapsible scooters. And he went, I wish I could have something like that, but I just don't have the space.
But that's what I mean. There's
Ow.
always somebody worse off, isn't there? Like there's somebody wishing that they had what you had, which sometimes must
Yes,
seem, like you say. We want to know a little bit about the witch that you are. And so our listeners can, because they love to learn and listen about all different types of witchcraft practitioner, which is why us three come together. I can't bloody get rid of these two now, to be honest. But when did you kind of start your witch? I love you really, sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
So when did your
I
witchcraft
was.
start?
I think I've always known that I was a little bit different from like the rest of my cousins and my family. I was the one who would make mud pies and potions in the bathtub and all of these things. And my granddad got really poorly. I started missing like the folklore tales because he's German, the tales and the folklore and the mythologies he used to tell me. And I found at the time more comfort in stories of Valhalla and warrior than I did in what I was being told by the father at the church. That started me looking into other ways of, well, belief, really. So I was 11 when I started my spiritual journey. And I think I was about 15 when I felt I was comfortable enough to, I'm a witch. So that was 24 years ago.
I also think like when it's the teenage witches, it's like that. I mean, I don't know because I came to witchcraft later in my life. It's like the rebellious energy to it as well, which I love about witchcraft anyway, because it is always about rebellion and pushing back on the patriarchy and pushing back on what everybody expects from you. But as a teenager, that would feel so empowering as well to make that choice.
It was. And at the time, in sort of, it was the early 2000s. So everything, the whole world was starting to open up with the internet.
You've just made me feel incredibly old that you're a teenager in the 2000s.
I'm saying nothing about being old. Nothing.
It's usually I'm one of the old. If I have a discussion like this, it's usually I'm the oldest witch in the group, and I'm 39.
Welcome to the Old Witch podcast. Welcome to the Old Witch podcast.
Oh,
Anon's
I'm a
actually the
grandma.
youngest one, but
Yeah.
I like to tell people she's older because nobody can see her. But she's the youngest.
I've always loved rainbows. I have always loved things that are bright and colourful, if you can tell with the hair. I started incorporating colour into what I was doing in my early 20s because I wanted to learn about what was going on with colour magic and colour and how it can affect my magic. So 14 years ago, something big happened and I came to a shop and was talking to the owner, and these two little old ladies came in, said, are you white witches or black witches? I couldn't stop the intrusive thought of, no, I'm a rainbow witch. That came out, and it was almost like my soul sung that whole I'm a rainbow witch, because that is, I think, what I am. Colour is my happy place.
I know we're all struggling a little bit with the technology, but I wanted to ask you briefly about the aspect of colour and how important that is in your work, because I'm very much a practitioner that really leans into my own experience with my practice, and I do view a lot of research and books that I view and read as a blueprint to my practice, and it's not necessarily something that I will follow strictly as a rule. So with colour, do you associate them with the terminologies that we know today, or do you have your own personal experiences with the colours that you work with, and do they change dependent on where you are on your path?
When I write about colour, it's always the characteristics that are usually found in books, because I think that is what everybody should know, especially when they're first starting out, is get groundwork. Then over the years, I've learned that certain colours to me represent something a little different when I'm practicing. Is like your heart chakra, it's usually green. For me, if I'm doing internal heart work, it's pink, because that's coming from within me. If I'm doing something externally or trying to bring something external to me, then I'll focus on green. It's like, again, with the crown chakra, it's not always purple for me. Sometimes it is magenta. Sometimes it is white. It will depend on what I'm doing with the spell or the magical working at the time. I am very loose in how I practice. If it calls out to me, then that must be coming to me for a reason, and I go with it. If somebody comes to me and asks, what colour would you recommend for grounding? Classically, it's black. For me, it's brown and grey. It's not as hard as black. It's not as cutting. So if you go with the colour of earth and ground, it's softer, pulls you down in a gentle emotion, rather than just smacking you on top of the head saying, yeah, they grounded. I'm not, this may be a bit of a hot take, I'm not a fan of using black for protection. I will use it for binding. For me, when it comes to protection, that is an iridescence. When I protect myself, I'm in a iridescent bubble. So it's a whole rainbow rather than just one particular colour. I have used like multiple colours of wax before to create a protection spell. I've actually gone out and bought the little spell candles and done each colour individually. I prefer to use things that are vibrant rather than things that are very polarizing, like black, white, because they're so harsh in terms of how they can come across. And I know there are witches out there who will 100% disagree with me.
Yeah, but do you know what, Nixie? That's the really important factor, and that's the thing that we like to bring to this podcast, is explain the difference in everybody's practice and how it should align to what you personally align to. And you've really articulated actually those things mean different things to you, and it's amazing. Like black really does mean protect. It feels like a big blocker for me, but that's okay because that's mine. And what you've said about iridescence is just beautiful because that's yours. And I think that's really it's an important message to say everybody's got their individuality, and that's why witchcraft works, right? Because we can be individual in our practice.
I think you said something really important as well, because I know we all practice differently and from different aspects and within our own personal practices. It's you explain colour and you use colour the same way as I'll use herbs and explain herbs. I will give somebody the grounding, but I do then expect them to see if it works for them. And does it work for, do I need to use something different? I don't use colour huge amounts, which is weird because I'm actually an artist. Probably because
you are an artist, but you don't.
Yeah, I tend to, yeah. I think I see it on a day-to-day basis all the time, so I don't bring it into my practice that much. But certainly with herbs and stuff, I'll give somebody a grounding herb, for instance. You know, this is what this means. The real basic, broad, this is what this means, this is the association. And then I'll go and use something completely different because it doesn't mean that to me. And that's really important, I think, for people coming in or remembering the craft or coming in as new to the craft. I think it's really important to know that is okay and that's part of your development.
Yes, learning what works for you. it's much like with disability as well. You learn what works for you.
Absolutely, yes.
And I was a teaching assistant before my illness took over. I was working with students with very different needs. And I think a lot of that, I took that into my craft as well. Everybody has different needs in terms of the craft. While some people will be heavy into divination or into herbs or into crystals, colour, everybody will approach it through their own needs, which obviously that's probably a disruption of thought. I think that's also why I do things. If somebody asks me what colour would work for this or what crystal works for that, I'll give them the framework and then tell them, go and feel the crystals, go and touch them, go and see what you feel from it. If it doesn't work for you, then come back to me and we can work something else out. Always have to be about what is written in a book is gospel truth.
Do you think that then people who are learning, who are remembering, who are slightly newer, however you want to put that, do you think they overcomplicate it a little bit?
100%. Because the books we read from, you can get 3 books on the same topic by 3 different authors, and you get 3 different perspectives, and at least one of them is going to contradict the others. And I had that in mind when I was writing with Tutorium as well.
I get asked that question so much, like, who do you trust? How do you listen? What book should I read? Well, actually, read everything. Well, read as much as you can, and then take away what works for you, because you can.
Yes.
And even with my clients, I say, look, they go, oh, Gail, you've taught me so much, and I love all that feedback. It's amazing, obviously. But I also make sure that conversation, that I am not your practice. You are your practice. So I can give you some information, but then you need to work that in and question some of the things I say, because they work for me. They may not work for you. So we shouldn't just, like you say, read a book and go, right, it's the gospel there, and that's what we should follow. It should be about taking the bits. But discernment is something I think that's a learned muscle as well, to be honest, because new practitioners really struggle with that discernment. So
Yes.
That's an important message you said. Like you said, every book you pick up or everything you read can have different versions.
And I think with the advent of the internet and social media, you have misinformation as well. I had somebody ask me, I saw on TikTok that it's okay to suck on malachite for toothache. I'm like, no, you're going to poison yourself?
Oh my good grief. The stuff that goes around.
Obviously, they've never really worked with crystals and they had toothache, so they thought, hey, let's give it a go. No crystals go in the mouth.
So what do you feel like you're currently being challenged by in your practice, apart from some of the obvious things we spoke about? What's your biggest challenge in your practice at the moment?
Organization. I used to pride myself on having the most organized altar and organized sort of tools. That's not happening at the minute. And I think a lot of it is because I'm disorganized in my own head and in my own heart. And my altar is a reflection of that. Last year, and I know this is something that has affected my altar, I lost a cat in October, November, and December. The one we lost in December, he was my baby boy. Losing him felt like something had been literally ripped out of me. I haven't been able to figure it out. I would look at my altar now because it's just over the room from me, and that kind of makes sense. Something feels like it's missing from me, so something is missing from my altar, and I've let the organization go to hell. Organization is my enemy right now.
I always think of the things that are testing and challenges, those like they're sent to teach us a lesson, right? We don't want to learn them at the time, but whatever that disorganization is, there'll be something magical in it for you to understand. You just don't know what it is yet because it's disorganized, but you know the point. Like there's something there in order for you to sift through some of that in order to find the light. And that's the way I always kind of look at those resistant moments that are sent to go, well, what are you pushing against? Of course you've lost your cat. That grief is heavy, isn't it? I'm so sorry as well, by the way.
Thank you.
And let alone losing several as well. So yeah. But it's just like how we can learn those lessons. And even us witch practitioners that have been doing it for a long time, it's not until the outside people I'm great at giving advice, Nixie, believe me, but do I listen to it? No. Would I have listened to that? No, but let's just pretend for a minute that I'm listening to my own advice. But it's all about those lessons that we've got, instead of giving ourselves a hard time about those things.
So we're all about living in a practical way, using our practice as a lived experience. And some of those opinions that we have are kind of unpopular. What would you say your unpopular opinion on modern witchcraft is, generally, that's out on social media at the moment? What's your unpopular thing?
Learn to use Google. Learn to open a book before coming and putting a comment, asking a question that you will wait hours, if not sometimes days, to get an answer to. You could have opened Google and gotten an answer, or open a book and got an answer. That is my big unpopular opinion, is people very often will ask questions on social media for a response without being willing to do the work to learn it themselves first. If they can't find information, fine, ask. You can be pointed in the right direction. I learned, obviously, at the advent of the internet, and I live in a very small town. We didn't have books on witchcraft, and the internet, well, was not what it is today. I learned by going to the library, looking through index cards of books that could help, going to a shop and asking the shopkeeper, could you order me this book, please? I think people take the easy route, and I am so sorry.
It's honestly, it is wild.
Yes.
The mundane questions that get asked on social media is just bonkers. Honestly, I don't know if, like, some of the questions, and you're right, it's not even about Googling. It's just like, why are you asking these things? Sometimes are really straightforward to find out as well. It's crazy. I agree. It's wild.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, isn't it, that I'd say I'd agree with that unpopular opinion. Maybe it's because I'm the oldest out of everybody here, and so I remember life without the internet. In the same token, I'm always really open for questions, but sometimes I kind of want to say, well, actually, you do need to go and look that up. Use your intuition. I can help you do that. I'm quite happy to answer you from my perspective, but actually, if you're going to practice this, you do need to stand on your own 2 feet a little bit.
And this is why you have said before, can anybody be a witch? Yes. Should everybody be a witch?
Yes.
Probably not. And
No.
I think that's part, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's part of it. Like,
Yeah.
witchcraft isn't just about doing the spell work or asking the questions. It's about doing the work to understand what it means for you, educating yourself, building up your craft. It's a practice. So I think that, I know you've said that a few times, but that's part of it, isn't it? Like, or just ask somebody on the internet quickly so you can get your answer. That's not practicing, is it?
Well, that's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's called a practice for a reason, isn't it? It's a craft. It's a practice for a reason. It's all individual, and we learn. We learn by making mistakes. We learn by not knowing. We learn by finding things out. We can talk to lots of people, but it's a personal thing.
I don't think you're truly a witch until you've blown up something that's glass as well.
Hey, I still do that now. I'm like, this glass won't break. It won't. It'll be fine.
Yep.
It's heat resistant. I was doing this burning thing outside a few years ago in it was meant to be flame safe glass. Well, it shattered.
We're not witches until we've got a bucket of sand near the altar. Yes.
I had a friend send me a big pot of sand from her favourite beach. So that lives in my altar for flame extinguishing purposes.
I wanted to ask. I find it very interesting that, you know, a bit like me as well. When I was younger, I didn't have the full access to the internet like what we have now, and it was always a little bit of that, you know, trepidation going to that librarian and asking for certain books. Do you feel that there's an essence there for the reasons and the whys that you're writing the books that you are, that you want to provide that information to people that perhaps you didn't have when you were younger?
That is the exact reason I wrote Witchatorium. My fairy godchildren are starting to grow up. My stepdaughter, my adopted daughter, they're all interested in the craft. I wanted to give them a bare bones of what things mean. Not necessarily what things mean to me, but the basic definition. I didn't have this kind of knowledge when I was first starting. I was lucky I had an amazing aunt who helped me with my divination, she didn't do other aspects of the craft. She was very much like a divination only witch. So there's a lot of things she didn't know. And I want to give people in my life and those who are just starting out a framework from which then they can build their craft around.
And we've touched on this a lot so far, but I think for a lot of people that may be new or intrigued by the pathway or perhaps remembering, it's so important to have the fundamentals. It's so important to have those books where it's plainly explained, it's simply explained. And then from then on in, they can develop their craft and their pathway to what best suits them. And I think that's so important for people to know and understand.
Because how I kind of saw it to begin with, a body cannot be held up without skeleton. That is what I wanted to give people with Witchatorian. Give them the skeleton, the bare bones, and what they do with that is their choice. Their practice is none of my business. I'm just giving them a tool to use and hopefully grow through.
You were mentioning that your practice, your craft meanders around your health. And again, yes. I think it's incredibly important that we listen to self first, because I think when we try and do our rituals or work-ins and we're not there mentally, physically, spiritually, I think that mirrors a lot as well of what sometimes we can put out there. How have you found the writing process? Have you found it quite an intuitive practice? Have you found that it's flowed very easily? Or have you had to be very structured and quite strict with your timing and when you do things?
Okay, how I usually write, pen and paper in bed. So where I'm sat now, there'll be a pen and a paper and I will just get things down. My first book, the Wicca, Potions, Lore and Charms, I wrote that entire book on my phone. I didn't have a tablet at the time. I didn't have my PC at the time. I'd actually, not long before that, lobotomized a laptop. Kind of had to use my phone. And when I came to writing Witchatorium, I wrote down all of the terms that I wanted in the book first. I didn't want to get lost in when I was structuring the book. Obviously, because of my physical limitations, I did 2 hours a day, sat at my desk, and then there were some days I felt okay, so I did a little bit more, but I was quite strict with myself. It took me 6 weeks to get everything compiled and written into a manuscript that was ready to be sent off. My one regret about writing this book is I didn't create the bibliography until after I'd done it all.
Oh, no.
So when I do the next ones, I will be copying and pasting links or writing the name of the book and the page number down that I get that information from as I do it. Because I went through 6 weeks worth of researching links and things and then trying to sit there and remember which book I opened. So I think it took me about 3.5, 4 hours just trying to get the bibliography.
So you could say that's one thing that you learned from writing. What would you say writing your books taught you about your own practice that you didn't know?
How varied it can be. Practicing as a witch doesn't necessarily mean sitting at an altar, doing everything willy-nilly and frilly and making everything colourful and pretty. Sometimes it is simply stirring a cup of tea.
How many times have I said that? I've said that so
I know,
many
we've
times.
said that so often on this podcast.
So, yes.
But that's the big misconception, isn't it, on social media? Everybody thinks witchcraft is all of this rituals and toil and trouble and stuff, but actually it's the noticing of things and doing the simplistic stirring in your coffee and, affirmation, all of that stuff.
It's like when I put the toilet cleaner down the toilet, it's like a little affirmation of please don't block. It's so silly. It's something I do.
Do you know what I do with the toilet cleaner?
What do you do with the toilet cleaner?
Honestly, I put it round in an anti-clockwise way.
I've never thought of doing that. Hang on, right.
You're going to work it out.
I do. I go anti-clockwise. I
See?
start at 12 o'clock. I start at 12 o'clock and then go round.
Anti-clockwise. I know, I realised I did that the other day.
You're banishing your toilet.
I banished the toilet. It's amazing. But it's the
we
little
got-
lived in everyday things, isn't it?
It is, but
I
now
know.
we've shared with everybody. It's literally how we clean.
How we clean our toilet. One thing that gets people laugh at me with, when I cleanse my house, I cleanse my drain because it is somewhere energy can enter my home.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, I cleanse my drains.
Okay, so I have not work on my drains.
I've got cord on the water pipe leading to my house.
Yeah, I think we've maybe Gail. Do you deal with your water and your drains? We all seem to do it.
Not on the drains, but on water pipes. Yes, I do.
See, I don't, because I live in a ground floor flat. I don't have access to water pipes really. So the drains.
Yeah.
Trust me, the kitchen one is testing us at the moment. Maybe I haven't cleansed it enough.
Because I've obviously read the book because I was fortunate enough to have it. Because it's not out yet either, is it? It's not out
No,
until the end of.
No, it comes out on the 28th of April. The only thing I left out, and I wish I could have found, was something in the X category. And I looked for hours for something to put there, which is why that page is just, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't want to leave it because I felt sorry for the X. If I'd left it out of the book, that is literally what I thought in my writing process. I can't leave this out because it would feel lonely.
All my head is doing right now is trying to think of an X. I can only think of X-Files, but it's not particularly witchcraft. That's more paranormal activity.
I'm just going crossroads. All my head is doing is going crossroads.
But that would come under. But that comes under C.
But I know.
X-ray to look through someone's soul. X-ray vision.
Nice and on.
X-ray vision. The only one that kept coming into my head at the time was xylophone. Yeah, and it was like, it sounds like a really cool word, and I know music's a thing, it could be great with cleansing. Maybe I should have put it in now. Going through up a xylophone, as the sound gets higher, you're raising your vibration.
Are you able to give us any little hints about anything on the horizon about what you're considering writing next? Any little guidance?
I am working. I can give you the names. The names I've already had in my head.
Ooh,
one of them is A Rainbow Witch's Guide to Colour Magic.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And Vicky, you'll like this one, Spoony Magic.
Oh, that's so needed. That's so needed.
Because it won't just be geared to people who are disabled. It would be people who have low spoons with time or energy or, constraints to do with their home. As I was writing Witchatorium, low impact and low energy magic for everyday practice, not just rituals and the odd spells, but everyday things. Just simple everyday things that do not take up a lot of time or energy. You may not necessarily think about as being magical.
Absolutely. I think there's a massive call for it because I know quite a lot of the messages I get is there a low impact way of doing this? And I'm going to ask you because you're a wheelchair user, and I know that you've got certain conditions, etc., and it's sort of like, how can I do it in an easy way? So I do try and make it so a lot of the stuff I show is sat down. It's either accessible or it's sat down because it has to be. But I think it is desperately needed, and it's not just for spoonies. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what a spoonie is, because it's a little bit, you either know or you don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't know what a spoonie is. I'm just sat there going, oh yeah. I'm just nodding along.
A spoonie is somebody with basically a chronic health condition. There's a whole thing about it of why it came about, the spoon theory. And it's you have a certain amount of spoons through the day and they represent your energy, and you expand that energy, you give away that energy through the day. So a shower may take 2 of your 12 spoons that you start the day off with. It was a friend. Friend trying to explain in a restaurant to somebody else about their energy levels. Right. So they took some spoons and they said, we all start off with however many. Apart from your shower only costs you 1 spoon, where my shower may cost me 3 spoons. So by the end of the day, we don't have enough spoons. This is a really by the side thing. That then got coined into the chronic health community as There's basically the spoon theory, and we all call each other, or we all know each other as spoonies.
This morning, I had a shower. That took 4 spoons. I had to then have a sleep to recuperate maybe 1 or 2 of those spoons, or a few of those points. I've had to explain this in so many different ways for people to understand. I think that's why I just want to write a book about it.
Even just explaining it in that way just registers differently in my mind the challenges that you guys have as disabled people. Like for me, having my shower is 1 spoon, but it takes you 4 spoons. Like it's a good analogy to have. And I guess I just never really put it into that bucket of understanding before because I haven't had to. But, you know, I've had moments in my life when I've had a big surgery and I wish I had said to somebody, it's taken me 7 spoons when it only took you 1 spoon. But obviously I overcome that problem.
I've had 3 children, and it's the same when you're a brand new mum and you've had no sleep. You know, that shower in the morning just takes so much energy and you're so exhausted, but you keep going and you keep going. Spoon theory can be used. I do think the book is needed.
Nixie, I think that book is going to be so important to so many different people, because you mentioned earlier, you know, the analogy of new mums. You've mentioned the creative process of this book is to reflect your own personal condition and how your pathway has meandered around that. But I think in today's society, within our world, I think a lot of people are just tired. I think a lot of people are absolutely exhausted. I think for some people, they really do query, do I have the time to practice? Do I have the time and the energy to get involved in something like magic? And as you perfectly explained earlier, sometimes it is brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, how we stir our tea or coffee and the words that we put into it. And I think that is going to be an absolute fundamental, actually, for a lot of people accessing, you know, their pathway. So thank you.
I'm glad the idea popped into my head as well. There's one thing that when I was writing the book that always came to my head was discernment. And I think I actually wrote it in the book. You know, I wish I could have capitalized it and highlighted it, because I think it's the one thing that a lot of people nowadays don't have. The discernment to know that something's not right for me. It's not right for me, but they still do it anyway. It would be like me getting up and walking into town. I could potentially do it, but I could dislocate my knees, my hips, my ankles while doing it. So I use my discernment to use my wheelchair because I know it's safe. So, and with magic, if you're not comfortable doing hexes or baneful magic, then you don't do it. No one is holding you, you know, some weapon to your head saying, you must do this in the sound of a Dalek. Sorry, that's literally what I heard as I was saying that.
Yeah, but Anon does that to me. Anon makes me do stuff like speaking like a Dalek.
Nixie, you know, with your craft, do you use it as some form of healing connected to your physical? Yeah.
Crystals, sound, color. I'm in the vein of I will try anything once just to see if it can help not be in as much pain. Because when you wake up feeling pain and go to sleep feeling pain, you will try Reiki, which was suggested by my GP, aromatherapy, massage, acupuncture, which is amazing. I think a lot of terms of healing work that is directly linked to, you know, my day-to-day troubles with pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Can't believe I got 2 spoony zebra EDS folk.
We're very common.
It's not that it's not that common though, right?
It is. It's the thing with it is they didn't used to think it was common, and it's actually far more common than people think. It's very, very underdiagnosed.
It is. And misdiagnosed.
Yes, very misdiagnosed.
You have to have a doctor that you trust and believe in to fight for you to get that diagnosis.
Because I didn't know that I had it, and my thumb kept falling out of joint. So I went to go and see a hand surgeon, because that's who I got referred to. And he had seen it before. I knew nothing about it, literally. I was very lucky that the surgeon that I saw to have my thumb repaired looked at me and said, "Can you do this weird bendy thing?" And I said, "Well, of course, everyone can do that." "And do you do this?" "Well, of course, everybody does that."
Yes. Well,
And
can't everybody do that thing?
exactly. And
No.
he said, "Actually, no, they can't. And I can't operate on you because."
Oh.
And then he brought a bunch of students in and said, "This patient is a textbook case for EDS. He couldn't diagnose me, but he then put me on the pathway for my diagnosis," which I then had twice because I had it done. And then the new criteria came in 2017. They then re-diagnosed me with it, which was great. And now we're about to have another diagnostic criteria. So
See, before 2017, which is when I got my diagnosis, it was always hypermobility syndrome. Hypermobility syndrome. You're hypermobile, you're fine. No, because my hip comes out, my knees pop, I tear ligaments, and something else was going on. And I had this GP who was utterly amazing. And she was like, "You're a zebra." And I was like, "Excuse me?" Then she explained about EDS and how hypermobility, it has a type in there. So she helped me through that process of having orthopedic people say, "No, you're not. You're just hypermobile."
yeah, you do need someone to actually fight in your corner a little bit for it. It's very difficult. At the moment, it's even more difficult to get a diagnosis, people are finding, but hopefully that will improve at the end of the year.
Our healthcare system is not easy, especially if you need it, right?
It's very, very broken.
Very specially for our Witchcraft 101 guest editions, we're going to do a keep it or cut it section where we ask our special guest Nixie 5 witchy things that you would cut in your practice. So Nixie, you have to choose though, right? This isn't, you can't go, "Oh no," and I know Anon's going to be upset by one of the choices. I haven't even shared with Vicky either. Those two haven't seen. You've got to keep or cut. So first, wands or athames? What would you keep and what would you cut from your practice?
Keep, wand, cut, athame.
Nice choice. Keep or cut tarot or oracle cards?
Cut, oracle, keep, tarot.
Would you keep or cut unicorns or fairies?
Don't you dare!
You've got to keep and cut one.
Don't answer, Nixie. Don't answer.
A unicorn has never stolen my engagement ring, so keep unicorns, cut fairies.
Ooh, the controversy. Anon is a big, if she could be a fairy witch, she would be a fairy witch, but she also loves unicorns. Herbs or crystals?
Cut herbs, keep crystals.
Oh, I know Vicky's not a big crystal fan. I've picked these on purpose. And then lastly, would you keep or cut moon water or rainwater?
Ooh.
Cut moon water, keep rainwater.
Ooh,
nice.
See, you've upset each other. Vicky's upset by the herbs. I'm upset by the moon water, and Anon's upset by the fairies. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Nixie. So finally, then, where can we find you?
Okay, primarily on all of my social media things, it's either Nixie Vale or Ramblings of a Rainbow Witch.
You're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Yes.
If someone listening right now feels like they're not a real witch, what would you say to them?
Whatever is making you feel like you're not a witch, put it in the bin, because it's our own negative self-talk that stops us being ourselves. So if you want to be a witch, then put all your negative thoughts about it or not feeling like you're a witch, put it in the bin or write it down, burn it, because you are a witch as long as you want to be a witch.
Throw it in the bin.
Throw away. What was that? Let it go and shake it
Let
off.
Let it go.
Let it go.
What's the title? When's the book out?
The book is called Witchatorium, a glossary of magic, witchcraft, and spirituality, and it is out on the 28th of April.
Thank you for listening to Between Three Witches, Witchcraft in Plain Sight. If this episode resonated, you are welcome to sit with it, share it, or let it unfold in its own time. You can find me, Vicky, and Anon on all the social media platforms. We will tag them in the show notes. But until next time, may your practice meet you exactly where you are.